Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to give it another minute for the people who are just joining us to be able to open the link, and we will make a start with today's webinar. Thank you. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us today. My name is Catalina Powell. I am Global Director of THE Counsellor at BMI Times Higher Education. And I am very happy to welcome you to our latest webinar of the series. Today, we're having a masterclass for educational counselors called Helping Your Students Succeed, the Value of a French Business Education in partnership with ICN Business School. I am absolutely delighted to be joined today with elisa.leon. Her title is Senior International Business Developer, I hope I said right, at ICN Business School. And we are also joined by Mariamónica Muñoz. She's International Programs Coordinator and Careers Counselor at Rochester School in Bogota, Colombia. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute, but for now, I just want to run through a couple of housekeeping things for you to bear in mind. So first and foremost, today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared with all of you in a few days' time. If you hover across the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A button. What we encourage you is to ask questions as we go along. So whether it's general questions, whether it's feedback, whether it's ideas that you have, whether it's things that you would like to contribute, we love to hear from our wonderful counselor audience. And both Mariamónica and Elisa will try to get to as many questions as possible. It might be during their presentations, or it might be at the end where we hope to have a space for Q&A. The other thing to say is that we will be sharing ICN Business School's contact details, so Elisa's contact details and the website that you can go in to find out more information. But equally, please reach out to Elisa directly if you have any questions around, for example, specific cases from students who you think might be interested in ICN Business School, might be interested in studying in France, or any of the things that will be covered during today's masterclass. So without further ado, I'm delighted to pass you over to Elisa, who will make a start. Elisa, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Carolina, for this space, and thank you for all the counselors that are joining us today. I know your schedule, it's super tight. I kind of understand that world that it's kind of it can be tricky to find a time just to join this kind of session. So I hope it is useful for you. I hope that you will learn some insights about the French higher education system, which I know it can be a little bit complex in some ways. So I'm here today for this. So I'm personally from Costa Rica. I've been living in France for the past 8 years, and I've been working at ICN first as an admissions counselor as well for the international admissions, and also for the International Relations Office for the exchange programs. So I kind of know a little bit about the international world in that way. Yeah, I hope to be able to help you today with this info session for you as well. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mariamónica Muñoz. It's an honor to be here with you today. As Catalina mentioned, I work at Rochester School. It's a beautiful, innovative school located just outside Bogota, Colombia. I currently serve as the International Programs Coordinator and Career Counselor, a role that allows me to guide our students as they explore their academic pathways and envision their futures. I've been a counselor for more than 10 years, and during this time, I've had the privilege of accompanying students and their families as they pursue their dreams, both locally and internationally. Through hundreds of conversations, applications, and personal reflections, I've witnessed fascinating shifts in the students' interest, both in the types of programs they pursue and the destinations that they're drawn to. These evolving trends are part of what makes today's conversation so relevant and exciting. Understanding how students perceive global opportunities, such as French business destinations, help us better guide them and making informed and meaningful decisions along the way. I'm truly delighted to be joining this panel and learn from all of you and to contribute to the conversation that directly impacts the future academic journeys of our students. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mariamónica. So I'm going to share a presentation with all of you just to give you a little bit of context as well about the French higher education system. So just to let you know and for you to better understand how it works actually, because there's a lot of subtleties that are there. So ICN Business School, we are actually, as the name says it, a business school, but not only that, we are part of the Grande École ecosystem. I'm going to explain to you that exactly and what is the difference between a Grande École and the regular university as well. So first of all, just to clarify that actually ICN, even though we're a French business school, we also have a campus in Berlin. So we kind of know as well a little bit about the let's say, German educational system. However, we're still going to be more focused in France since this is what our main expertise is based on. So first of all, there's 3 pillars of the French higher education system that are very important and that are going to be on the classrooms for every student that is coming to study in France. First of all is laïcité, what we call secularism. Pretty much this is very particular. I know it can be a little bit tricky for some students as well. Pretty much it's freedom of, religion, you can call it. So pretty much it means that it is quite a private thing here in France. It's not something that you will show off your religion like very publicly. It's more something that you will keep on your own, on your, let's say, house or, on your own private spaces. It's not something that you usually will have it publicly, for example, in the classroom. So this is very specific, even though you're free to, believe whatever you want to believe and have any religion that you want to have. It is quite an open country, which is a little bit contradictory, I know, but in the classrooms is really like you have to keep that away from this, and you're not allowed, for example, to wear any kind of religious signs or things like this usually during classrooms. So this is very specific. Also, we have freedom of teaching, which I know for some cultures this can be it is super normal. For some cultures this is kind of a little bit surprising, but yeah, it means that professors are allowed to bring out different kind of topics during the classroom. They are allowed to speak about hot topics happening in the world, that can be sometimes a source of debate actually, and a source of discomfort for some students in some ways. But this is really super French. It is very normal for a professor to talk about different kind of topics that are happening in the in the politics right now. So they have to be comfortable with this idea first of all before even coming or considering coming to France, I would say. And of course, the last, I would say, pillar is debate, which is really, really kind of a French kind of thing. It is very normal in the French culture to debate, even on let's say, a family dinner. It is very more than welcome to debate on anything you could imagine. It is not seems as something like rude or disrespectful or anything. It's something that French people actually enjoy. And this is highly encouraged as well in the classroom. So professors expect this from their students, that they will, say their point of view, defend their point of view. And this kind of thing is really encouraged. I know most IB schools, for example, have the UN kind of formats where they can actually express and represent a different nation or a different part of the UN organism as well. So this is quite interesting because it can be let's say a good fit in that way if you see kind of a student that has that in them and that enjoys this kind of let's say setup. This can work really good for them because this is something that is very French in this way. Also, as I explained before, so ICN is part of the Grande École system, so it's not considered a regular university. We are only a business school. We don't have any other faculties at ICN. So mainly the difference between a university and the Grande École is that universities have a lot of faculties. You will have medicine, but also law, also management. So we have all the faculties. Usually universities are public, while as Grande École usually are more private. Usually universities have like more open access for applicants. Tuition fees are very affordable, even though for non-EU students are usually, of course, there's let's say a higher tuition fee than, of course, for EU students. You would have large class sizes. It's a lot of theory. It's not much into the practical. So that's kind of like the main difference, I would say, within a Grande École or business school. And well, you have the usual, let's say, system, which is a 3-year bachelor's, then a 2-year master's, and then you have a doctorate as well. This is quite the same as in a Grande École. Usually we offer bachelor's of 3 years, a master's of 2 years, and then PhDs or anything like this. The difference also in a Grande École is that the admission process can be a little bit harder for students to get in a Grande École. It's much more selective. So definitely, yes, there's much more competition in this way. The classes size are smaller. For example, at ICN, we have 1 professor for every 33 students. That's our average. And it has a really strong professional orientation. So it's really hands-on experience focused on the professional aspect in general. So just to give you an example, once again, at ICN, we have students will go to internships since the first year of their bachelor's, while as in a regular university, this wouldn't happen, for example. It's really much into the theory, again, a lot of classes. And of course, the tuition fees of Grande École are usually obviously higher. And of course, the advantage as well is that we usually Grande École have a really strong connection with the professional world as well. So they have a lot of contacts in companies, international companies as well. So this can be definitely an advantage. Of course, one of the last but not least things of the Grande École is that we offer, let's say, the offer at least of programs taught 100% in English is wider than what you would have in a regular university. So that also narrows your options, for example, for a student very quick. So a student who is fluent, of course, in French, they might have both options, but a student who is only fluent in English will go let's say, more likely to a Grande École, which obviously, just to clarify, Grande École are not only business schools, you have also engineering schools and very specific schools like architecture schools as well. So it's really like the only specialized kind of school in this way. Talking about tuition fees, I know this is a huge argument, I would say a huge thing that it's definitely important to consider. I know, of course, let's compare to the main competitors for us. Usually the US, where students will tend to go a lot, and the UK. We know the tuition fees that usually this kind of universities will expect for a year. So just to let you know, in France, the tuition fee for let's say a university, let's say, of course, the ones that are in this graph are not necessarily reflective of what we have at ICN or in general at a Grande École. But you can expect to have, for example, at a public university, a tuition fee of around 3,000, 4,000 euros per year. At Grande École, it will cost you between 9,000 to 14,000 euros per year. So still quite affordable if you compare to other destinations. So this is a big point, I would say, that for families, it can be something that they might have overlooked for maybe years and decades, because of course US and UK destinations are very popular. There are very good universities, but of course the tuition fees are also very high. So this is a good thing to just keep in mind and to know in general. So in France, it's not necessarily expensive to study. However, there is the cost of living that can be, let's say, a little bit more expensive. The difference in France is that compared to the US, once again, or even the UK, we don't really have what we call accommodation on campus, or we don't have like this kind of American campus style where you have everything on campus. You can do everything without even going out of the campus. So it's more like here you have your campus, of course, and then you will just go to classes, but you also have like a life is going on in the city center, because it's really there where the things are happening, actually. So that's where the part of the cost of living can be a little bit tricky, because yes, that's something that students and families need to consider, a part of the tuition fee. And for example, in Paris, just to give you an idea, that represents around 1,200 euros per year. So that's, let's say, another 1,200 euros to add, 12,000, sorry, euros to add, for example, to the annual, let's say, cost of the program. So that's something that, of course, you should keep in mind. But just know that there are options, of course. Comparisons between, again, the US and European educational system. So generally in Europe, the bachelor programs are 3-year bachelors, while as usually in the US, those are 4-year bachelors. And I know, for example, in Latin America, there are even 4 to 5-year bachelors. The advantage here for me in Europe, what I can see as an advantage is that in 3 years, you can get, let's say, the full bachelor's in a really kind of short period of time, that including internships. So you will still get the professional experience some students are looking for as well. And then you can jump in directly to a master's degree of 2 years. So at the end of 5 years, let's say you get the full package. And yeah, this is quite interesting, especially for students that come from regions where they have this kind of a 4-year bachelor's, sometimes even more. So it can extend really a lot of their studies, while they can get, let's say, to even getting a master's degree in only 5 years at the end of the day. So this is a huge advantage, I would say, especially for Latin American countries, where I think it can be very long. Students actually do their bachelor's, then they start working, because of course there's also that need of getting started in their professional lives and earning money. And then very later on their lives, they will consider doing a master's when they will be maybe 30 something. And it is, I would say, harder maybe in some ways to get back to studying and go to a master's degree once you have a lot of experience. It depends, of course, but let's say if you can do it right away, right after your bachelor's, that's even better, because you're already in the country, you're already in this kind of a system. So why not go through to the end of it and get to the master's? So yeah, this is a very interesting to compare. Of course, advantages of studying in Europe in general. Of course, traveling and exploring is one of them. They are going to be based in one of the main cities of Europe, big cities. So definitely here they can just take a train or a plane for 50 euros round trip and go from Paris to Madrid for the weekend, or I don't know, go to Germany, Berlin, or even go to London for just 1 or 2 days. So this is quite an advantage in general. It is a plus for sure for them to be kind of like open to the world as well in that way, for them to be able to explore the world and Europe in this case in such an easy way, and to have that freedom as well, because of course I know your students are coming from total different backgrounds, total different countries, cultures. I know in some cultures, they're very cocooned, they're staying at home, they don't go out really easily because of course it is not safe to go out. So here they will be in a safe environment in either if it's Paris, Berlin, Madrid, whatever they want to go. So this is kind of like a safe environment for them to explore and to, be more independent and autonomous, and also, like learning also from that. So this is quite an interesting point in there. Well, just talking about safety, so definitely one of the advantages that we offer in general, let's say, and this is kind of a general thing of, I would say, of grande école and the universities, is that we have let's say, a safe and supportive student environment. So, for example, we have an international office that will help you to adapt easier to the French system in general, or to French culture. They will organize kind of events throughout the year for the students to feel more comfortable with the culture, to know about all the kind of typical things in France. Also, of course, we have a psychologist that can help the students if they're feeling in kind of a distress, they're feeling like homesick, things like this. We help them with this. We try our best for them to, let's say, keep like a smoother change once they're come from other country, once they arrive in France. Of course, there's still going to be a cultural shock for sure. This is something I always like to ask the student once they get here. It's like, what was the thing that most shocked you when you arrived? And it's quite interesting to hear their different stories, because they are shocked in so many different ways. So it's quite interesting to hear that as well. But yeah, definitely this kind of safe and supportive environment, it is very good. In general, in France, has a lot of let's say, help from the government for international students. Students will benefit from a student card, of course, so they will get kind of a special student prices for everything, pretty much, including train tickets, accommodation as well. They can actually benefit from housing aid. All international students have access to this, and it can go up to 100 euros per month. So it is not a big deal, because it is not a lot of money, but it's still kind of, it shows the let's say, at least the willingness of the government of helping international students, and to give like this kind of good environment for them. So this is something very important to keep in mind. So for example, health insurance, it is free and mandatory for all international students in France. Pretty much, we still advise students to take an international health insurance for them to be covered, let's say, at least the first 3 months while all the paperwork is put into place. But once they're like signed up and everything, it is quite easy to, it is super easy to move around, and just for them to know that they don't have to spend any money in health. So this is a very good point that France offers, and that France has that is out there, that you should know as a counselor, but also for parents to know, because that kind of reassures them that they don't have to spend a lot of money in an international health insurance for all their studies. Of course, we do advise students to like purchase an extra insurance, which will cover like any kind of possible thing that could happen. And usually that kind of extra insurance will cost around 200 euros per year. So still quite affordable as well. Well, talking about maybe work opportunities for international students, usually pretty much what students can do, they are allowed to work. Usually a regular visa will allow them to work up to 20 hours per week. However, most programs in France are full-time. So really, we don't really advise students like to adventure themselves into working while studying, especially in a new country. And, it can be a lot of pressure, at least for the first couple of years, I would say. But just to keep in mind that they could, if they want, like take a part-time job, or, I don't know, a night shift in McDonald's, they can still do that. Also in France, students can apply for a post-study visa, so it's called APS. It is usually a 1-year visa, which allows students to stay for 1 year. Of course, they need to apply for it. It's not automatic. And also they need to justify, of course, if they're working maybe on a project, if they're looking for a job. So yeah, pretty much but it is possible. It is a great advantage as well, especially for them, just don't have like that pressure that once they finish the program, they will have to go right back home. So they can just stay for 1 year, and eventually, who knows, like if they find a job during that year, they can eventually sign a work contract, and they can even go for a work visa, and then they can stay as long as they want. So pretty much it is quite open in that way, and this is a very good thing also that France offers in general. We also have in France a very particular thing that is called apprenticeship. So it's kind of a work and study, or sandwich courses, as it is known in some countries as well. So it means that pretty much students will work and study simultaneously. Of course, for this, it is a specific rhythm of classes. Students will usually have 1 week of classes and 3 weeks of the month at work. It is a contract that is signed between the company, the school, and the student. And this allows, the good thing about this and the great thing about this is that pretty much the company will pay ICN the tuition fee of that year, and will pay also the student their salary. So it is a win-win situation for everyone. Student is gaining professional experience while as they're studying. So this option, it is available, for example, in our bachelor program since the second year officially. We advise students to consider it more on the third year. However, the tricky part about this is that they obviously need to be fluent in French, because otherwise, to find a French company that will accept them to work if they don't speak French, it's going to be very difficult, especially in a bachelor's level, because they don't have like enough, expertise to bring. So anyways, just to keep that option in mind, it exists, it is possible. I wouldn't say it's for students and for parents to count on that, let's say, to finance their children's studies, because it's a lot of pressure, and sometimes it's not that easy to find a company. The finding of the company can be also a tricky part of the process. We rely a lot on the students for this. We don't really guarantee at all to the student that we're going to find a company for them. It's more that they have to look for them on their own. So yeah, usually business schools, as I mentioned before, we have strong career services. We have, for example, at ICN, a career and internship service that can help students, for example, how to coach them on how to prepare a motivation letter for a French company, how to prepare an interview for a French company, things like this. They can also benefit from this kind of coaching from these services, as well, of course, having special access to kind of different kind of job offers, internships as well. Also, knowing French, of course, it is greatly appreciated. What I always tell the students, of course, you're coming to France, so it is not the Netherlands in that way. We still expect for students to, let's say, have at least a basic level in French, even though we don't require it at all in our admission process, for example. It's more for them, for their daily life, to be able to, go to the restaurant and order something, or if they have a problem with their landlord, for them to be able to communicate, let's say, at least in a basic level. They can work on their French while they're here. And usually, yes, the thing is that they will have internships. So the idea is that they, let's say, get to a decent level of French by the end of the program, at least. That is what it is expected in this case. Of course, they can benefit from French language courses. I always advise students to work on their French even before coming to France. Of course, they do some Duolingo courses as well, if they can go to the Alliance Française or other institutions, like to get like proper classes of French, that's even better. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And yeah, pretty much usually we're quite flexible in terms of the internships. Students can also go around to other European countries, not only France in this case. For example, if they found an internship, for example, in England or in Germany, we're open to that as well. So it is not only France in this case. This is just to show you like how does that timetable look like for example, a student studying in France. This is not at all an example of ICN. It is just a general example on what students could expect. What is the, kind of typical timetable of a week. You can see that there's, of course, two kind of let's say, blocks of classes. Then there's obviously the lunch break, which is usually 1 to 2 hours. Here in France, it is a big deal. We take the time to eat. And yeah, pretty much it is kind of quite intense, as you can see. There's not much free time in this case. This is very common, like typically what it would look like a general timetable, for example, for any school. Usually the hours per week that students can expect of classes is between 15 to 25 hours per week. So yes, it is a full-time program. Just to really clarify that once again. And there's a lot of also group projects as part of the program. There's also a lot of professional workshops. There's a lot of business games, hackathons as well. So all this kind of let's say more practical aspect is also part of the ecosystem, let's say, of the programs as well. Sorry, so this is just to show you a little bit, to give you an example of a calendar that how it looks like, at least at ICN. So very roughly, you can see that there's a period of exams by the end of January, for example. Sorry, it's early January. Then you have, of course, the holidays. Usually we have a 2-week holiday in December, and then there's like the spring break that we call in April as well. And usually by May they would already go for their first internship. So from May to August they will be doing an internship in this case. So it gives you an idea of what kind of a schedule they can expect. Of course, classes start by September, early September, and usually they end up in December for the first semester. So yeah, what students usually say, I would say the pros and cons of studying in France. Definitely one of the pros will be it's very high quality education in general. There's an international environment in general as well. Usually you would expect to have international students as well as in the city, let's say, where students will be studying. It can be very international as well. It's quite affordable, as I said, compared to the US and UK. Definitely something that some families might look it into. There's a strong career opportunities in general, since we have that kind of really strong connection with the professional world. Cultural and personal growth, sorry. So there's also a lot of clubs and, for example, student associations that students can join. This is quite common here in France as well. I forgot also to mention, but here in France you have like the university cafeteria, which is called CRUS. It's kind of let's say it's kind of a public actually institution, but it's kind of like the student cafeteria or university cafeteria. There's always a CRUS like in every city and in every like near every campus of any university. And let's say a meal can cost for a student from €1 to €4. So it's really, really affordable. It's mainly for students to go there or staff from the university. So it's really like a great place, and it's really known overall in France. So it's called CRUS. Of course, the challenges, there's definitely the French bureaucracy, which is obviously very well known, not for the good reasons, I would say. Definitely that can be tricky. There's a lot of paperwork to do. There's, of course, the visa process, which can be a little bit tricky as well for students to go through that. But once they pass that step, and I would say even once they get here to France, that I would say there's usually like a 3-month kind of period where they are still getting, the student card from us, from the institution, where they have to apply for the CAF, for the housing aid. So there's a lot of kind of paperwork to be done in the first 3 months. And once those 3 months are passed, everything is great, I would say, but definitely they have to take that into consideration. It is part of the French culture, French bureaucracy. It can take time, and yeah, it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. Finding housing, especially in big cities, definitely that's something that can be tricky as well, especially in Paris. Although if students have a good budget, it should be fine. Where it's really challenging is when they really don't have or a very restricted budget for accommodation, it can be more difficult. We do have a staff that helps our international students into finding accommodation. So they can help you or your students in this case to find a suitable accommodation for them. We don't, as I have said, we don't have accommodation on campus in general, but we do have partnerships with either private residences. We have also student kind of a student accommodation as well available. We have partnerships with different kind of types of accommodation services. So we do have options, of course. So yeah, there's nothing to worry about this. But in general, yes, it can be still a little bit tricky. Language barrier for sure. French, I mean, French, it is still there. I cannot lie with this. Definitely, it is kind of, we're still in France, so French people are, I would say, new generations are, let's say, starting to open a little bit with the language. I would say they are more English speaking, I would say, and open to help in case you don't really speak French or anything. However, they still expect you to, let's say, at least have a basic level in French, at least at the beginning, and to learn the local language. But that's something I would encourage to any student, going to a foreign country. Learn the local language is going to make your life much easier. And of course, the teaching style can be sometimes unstructured or, like rigid timetables in some cases. That can be a little bit destabilizing for some students who are maybe more in a different kind of setup or that are expecting something very different as well. So we have to be also very clear with this before they engage to come to France in any case. Just to finish, maybe to give you an idea of what kind of undergraduate programs we offer at ICN. I don't know if you noticed, but in the logo there's said it is written Creative Business School. It is because we are still a business school. It doesn't mean the students will have art classes or anything like this, but we have an alliance with the School of Arts and the School of Engineering. We do believe we have this kind of ATM kind of pedagogy that it stands for Art Technology Management. We want our students to be open-minded, to be resourceful, to be proactive, to be creative, and to be able specifically to work with people from different environments and from different backgrounds. For a business student to be able to work with an art student and also an engineer student, that's something that we believe it's gonna make the difference, especially when they're in the work industry, and they have to develop this kind of soft skills. So this is why we're kind of a different business school in this way, because this is something we take very seriously. It's part of our DNA, and it's part of our programs as well. So we have 2 undergrad programs at ICN. The first is the Bachelor in Management. It is a 3-year general management program, fully taught in English in either Paris or Nancy, which is a northeast city in the northeast part of France. It can also be done entirely in French if you have any French students. They have internships since year 1, just to keep in mind. And on the 3rd year, they have 4 possible paths. They can do a semester of exchange abroad. They can do a double degree for the full year. They can also specialize in a specific field. If you're more into marketing or luxury or finance, they can do that as well. Or they can follow, let's say, a regular path, which is more like year 1 and 2, with an internship at the end. There's also a seminar in the French Alps, which is really cool. And of course, the programs are all accredited. We're a triple accredited business school, just to mention. And the other option would be an international Bachelor in Business Administration. This is going to be a 4-year program. That's the main difference. It's going to be in Berlin, in English, starting from next September. It's going to have more an international focus than the Bachelor in Management. Students will benefit from these ATM workshops that we call since the year 1. And the third year, they would have to go abroad. It is part of the program. It's mandatory. Besides, like in the Bachelor in Management, it is one of the many options, but it's not mandatory. They have to do either 2 semesters of exchange or 1 double degree abroad. And the fourth year is mainly for the professional experience and a specialization in this case. You can check the specializations that are on the slide as well. So that's it for me. Here you have my information, email address. You can scan the QR code. It should give you to my LinkedIn page. So if you want to connect, feel free also to connect with me. Thank you so much. And maybe Mariamónica.
Thank you so much, Elisa, for all the information you provided. Before we start with the conversation and the questions, there's a question in the panel, in the Q&A section, and it says that there is an 11-year education system. There are students eligible to apply for a bachelor's degree if in the case of ICN, or if you know in the French educational system, how would that look like?
So basically, as soon as the student has the high school diploma, pretty much, if it's a national diploma, if it's DIB or whatever, we can still, they can still apply. Usually what it counts is the degree. It's not necessarily that they will have to do an extra year or a foundation year in general. We could take them from year 1.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So now entering about some questions, and if anyone else in the audience wants to start typing their questions in the Q&A section, please feel free to do so. And meanwhile, Elisa, I was wondering in what ways does having students from multiple nationalities enrich the learning experience, and particularly in a business school? How would you feel having in the same classrooms 5, 4, 7 nationalities will impact that learning process?
Sure. So I think definitely having that multicultural environment, it is a plus for sure. As I said previously in my presentation, so debate and this kind of freedom of teaching is also part of the classroom kind of environment and what is encouraged. I would say having that point of view of different cultures, of having different point of views, different kind of ways of seeing things, it is more like I would say a strength, definitely, and it is something that it gives a lot of value to the classroom. It makes it much more interesting, definitely, and I think professors in general in France are really sensitive to that as well. They really want to make the students part of it as well, and for them to be able to share also again their point of view, their ways of seeing things as well from their culture, from their perspective, and maybe how to adapt them also into the French culture as well. So that is can a way of, let's say, mixing up those things.
Thank you. We have another question. Do you have any opportunities to partner with or enter into the MOUs with high school so students can receive special benefits?
Absolutely. Yes, that's something that we're happy to review. Of course, any kind of MOU proposal. We just signed up with an MOU with a Portuguese high school recently. Definitely, that's something we can look into. We are more than happy to look into that possibilities. And of course, the idea is for you to be able, let's say, makes things smoother for you on your side, for your students to have obviously benefits on your side, and for us, of course, to let's say have a really, we know the kind of students that we're getting from that high school, so that's also reassuring from our side. But yeah, totally, if you're interested in that, please send me an email. Once again, I'm gonna share it maybe on the chat, or I don't know where. I'm gonna share my screen again so you can take a look, and feel free to reach out to me for discussion.
Perfect. Thank you. How or what advice would you provide us counselors to better prepare our seniors or even juniors for them to be ready for the cultural change on living not only in France but in Europe in general? What those are the main things that you need to bring into the table and discuss before they even plan their trip.
Absolutely. So there's, I would say, a couple of things that I always think that, well, yeah, students, they should know this before they come to France or they consider France, because it is kind of a thing. And even Europe, I wouldn't say only France, it is more like a European kind of thing. And is that here students are expected to be autonomous, very autonomous, to be resourceful, to be proactive. And that's something that I know it's not for all students. It is not something natural to all of them, but that's something that they will need to survive in the European higher education system, because here, let's say, it's more like it is expected for students to, I don't know, like get the information on their own, even though the information is going to be there. I mean, of course, for example, at ICN, we do a lot of webinars. We do a lot of the career and internship, for example, service. They organize a lot of workshops, webinars. They share a lot of information. So there's a lot of information out there. However, it's up to the student to go for it and to sign up for it and to, be very proactive. And what I always tell the students is that we give you the tools for you to succeed. So it's up to you to make it work. Because it is not, I know in some cultures, especially for me coming from Latin America, we expect, let's say, usually for people and if we're going to university or any kind of service that we're paying for in a way for them to take us by the hand and tell us, so here's what you need to do. You have to sign up here for your internship. Everything is set up for you. You just have to show up and that's it. So no, this is not how it's going to go. Really, it's more like, yeah, you need to be very autonomous, very proactive. In general, that's what I would advise, and the kind of students that we expect to have. And I know it can be difficult for some students. Definitely customer service, for example, it is a thing here in France. It is something they're still, they don't have that, in their culture. So they're going to tell you, so it is what it is. So yeah, you just either take it or leave it. It's not like more like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, yes, we're going to change everything just to make you happy, things like this is kind of something that they need to be aware of. It's more like either you take it or leave it. It is how it is. And yes, I know it can sound a little bit like harsh from the beginning, but I rather say it now. And for students, I prefer a student that is very clear on their mind where they're going to, in a way, for them just to be a little bit lost, instead of them being lost and, coming here and feeling disappointed in a way or something like this.
Totally, totally. Thank you. In another end, I'm talking about a little bit about employability. So what have you observed from your end? Because we get them ready to hire ed and we send them with blessings, and that's our job. But we also need to keep in mind in terms of employability, how we are going to support our students. So have you noticed any new trends nowadays in Europe or worldwide? Or how are you connecting with this readiness and to help students get into the job market with the required skills?
Absolutely. So, as I said, we have a lot of focus on the professional aspect that applies for any business school in general. They would have internships since year one, so definitely they're kind of already in that hands-on experience. They know how it is to work in a company since the first year. So they cannot say that they were not warned or whatever. Like they know how it's going on. They know how is the work industry at the end of the bachelor's, where they can get up to 12 months, sorry, of professional experience, which is a lot. Actually, there's a full year pretty much that they can get. Not automatically, of course, that's if they choose to, do the extra internship as well in the third year. But yeah, that's something that we believe it's important, the professional aspect. Then there's this kind of ATM aspect, which I know it sounds strange, but it's our technology management kind of approach that we have at ICN, more specifically, that we really think it's going to make the difference, because we do believe that that's what companies need nowadays. You won't be only working with a person who is graduated from a business school. You might also be working with an artist, an architect, an engineer as well. And you have to make it work to, working together for a specific project. So this is something that definitely, let's say, it helps a lot for them to be able to develop those soft skills in order to find a job afterwards. We know it because the percentage of employability, for example, in our Bachelor in Management is it usually fluctuates every year, but it's between 95% to 100%. So it means that all our graduates found a job in less than 6 months. So this is reassuring also especially for the parents, I would say, that their kid will find a job after they graduate quite quick. Obviously, most of our students, of course, after a bachelor's, they most likely will be pursuing a master's degree, which is quite like the common path here in Europe, actually. But in general matters, yeah, if they're jumping in directly to the professional world, I would say definitely the professional experience throughout internships and this kind of transdisciplinary approach that we have definitely helps a lot.
Perfect. Thank you. We have one extra question in the Q&A. Do you need the high school certificate diploma to be attested, and which attestation process you request?
So for the application process, we don't need the diploma. We can accept predicted grades. Usually we require the last two transcripts of the last 2 years, for the application. The degree, the admission will be subject to the obtention of the degree. So pretty much that's something we will require until, I would say, July on the following year for the September intake. So it comes quite really at the next step. So no, it is not mandatory during the application process at least.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Elisa. That will be for my end.
Thank you so much.
I know Kata is coming. There she is.
I'm just here. Sorry, my camera just got stuck there for a second. What a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much to both Elisa and Mariamónica. I think it's one of those things that it's easy to assume that the education systems are similar regardless of where you go. So I'm hoping that this conversation has been incredibly useful to all our high school counselors, especially those of you that are perhaps less familiar with the European education systems. Things like it was great to see an example of the timetable. I keep thinking about this is a conversation I often have with high school counselors around, you called it the unstructured teaching style. That is so true. And we find, and I can see Mariamónica in particular nodding there, but we see that often that's one of the things that students struggle the most when they go to study in Europe. They are used to a very, very structured timetable in their high schools where they know exactly at what time they arrive, at what time they leave, all the different classes, when they begin, when they end, what is expected, what time they have to be at what place, how much homework they have to submit, when the deadlines are, etc., etc. And the shock of coming into an education system where it is incredibly self-driven, and you were talking about that a moment ago, Elisa. Particularly cultures like the Latin American culture where things are spoon-fed often, let's just call it what it is, right, to students. And then all of a sudden they encounter a system where they have to find things out themselves, where they have to be proactive, where they have to go and ask those questions, go and, they know that they have some free time and they have to make a decision. Am I going to go into town and go shopping, or perhaps I'm going to use that time productively to prepare for my lessons and read what I need to do, go and do some research at the library, or what have you. So that's a very interesting transition. And I think coming back to the tips for counselors, Mariamónica, you were asking about how can you best prepare those students. Perhaps you want to talk a little bit about how those conversations happen in your school.
For sure. And I mean, autonomy, it's one of the biggest issue, and not only from the student end, but for parents. And it's like, but are they actually ready? How do I know I'm doing well? It's like, tell me what are their home responsibilities related, like, no, he doesn't even make the bed, or he doesn't know how to cook even rice, or it's like, okay, so we need to start somewhere. And these are good points to start for making sure that when the time comes, they have the skills and they're ready and autonomous, and not only in the study aspect, because most of them are brilliant, are autonomous, they know how, they have study habits, they're doing great in their subjects, they're super organized with their academics. But in the other end, they have no idea how to cook rice, how to open a bank account, how to manage money. Like, do I need to make a budget? How would that look like? What will be my priority? And they need to start learning that beforehand, because once they got there and they have, I don't know, a budget or allowance or an income from the month, and for the first 10 days you end up with no money, that's a big issue, and you need to learn how to do that. So yeah, for the most daily things to the most complex, how to manage money, safety, even though they're coming from a culture that it's completely different regarding safety, they come with that background over there. Like, what do I need to keep in mind? What do I need to relax, and what special cares do I need to have? What happens in the medical aspect? Do I'm sufficiently able to ask for help, to identify that something's wrong with me, and not only physically, but also emotionally. And that's part of being an autonomous, like knowing how to raise their hand and ask for help when they need it. That's super important. So those are the kind of conversations that I used to have with our students beforehand, and like got in the first conversations, they're awkward. It's like, why are you asking me what I do at home? Like, what? There's like, no, here's the connection, and those are really relevant stuff that you need to keep in mind when you're considering leaving the country.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic points. Thank you for that, Mariamónica. Before we finish, just a quick reminder to everybody that if you would like to find out anything else about ICN Business School, their campuses, the two wonderful programs that Elisa talked us through earlier, if you are interested in perhaps talking to Elisa about signing an MOU for your high schools, or you want to discuss a particular case from a student that you think might be a great candidate for ICN Business School, please reach out directly to Elisa. Her contact details will be shared with you, as well as a recording of this presentation. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining us today. Again, thank you so much to the wonderful panelists, Mariamónica and Elisa, for this fabulous conversation. We hope our wonderful high school counselors have found this useful. This is the last webinar that we have for the series this year. So have a wonderful holiday, Christmas break if you're celebrating, or hopefully just a wonderful break if you're able to take some time out. Thanks again to both of you, and we will see you all very soon again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.